Okay, welcome everyone, and welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talks Evening Edition Show. My name is James Sim Overton, and I'm here with co-hosts Leah Drake Stitt and Thomas the Colonel Chapman. Hello, co-hosts. How you doing?
Hello, how are you?
Hello. Yeah, are y'all warm in the house like I am? It might not be time for the air conditioning, but you are kind of tempted to pump it up a little bit. You know, I've been sweating in here a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, it's pretty chilly in this room. You know how
Oh,
they
yeah.
keep
Yeah,
these
you're in the
rooms
hospital.
here. They're pretty cold.
Yes, sir. But anyway, we're here with some special guests this evening with us, and Miss Helen Davis and Dr. Dianne Davis-Wagner. Hello. How you doing?
Good
Oh,
evening.
And I
Good
might add,
evening.
this is the first time we've been on about 3 years. It's the first time we had a mother-daughter combination here. And that's something to celebrate in itself. Anyway, we have these two ladies here with us, and we want to celebrate them both, and especially Miss Helen Davis, who's been around for a while in the city of Portsmouth. And we're going to talk about some of the things. Was that me?
No, that was my Facebook. I apologize.
Okay, we're going to talk about something going back to the Central Civic Forum, which a lot of people might not know about that. It's a lot of people that do, like myself, that were around then. But a lot of the younger audience might not know about that. They might know about the Martin Luther King Leadership Steering Committee, which was a group that's operating now. But the Central Civic Forum was the beginning of that type of organization.
That is correct.
And I'm gonna let the ladies talk about that. And I remember being a part of it. When I was really a part of it, Dianne was the president at that time. And I might mention Helen, and I respect your titles, Miss and Doctor, but I've been knowing you for a long time. So if I can call you Helen and
Yes,
Dianne,
yeah,
please.
that's fine.
Okay.
Perfectly fine.
I remember Helen was one of the first women presidents of the
It was the
Civic-
first.
the first.
Mhm.
And I think, Dianne, were you the second?
The second.
Yeah, and it probably wasn't. Well, I think somebody, Velma Hennett, came after you.
Correct. You got
Yeah.
your history is correct.
Yes, yes. And I think when Velma was president, I was vice president. And
Right.
during the time we were trying to keep it moving, but
Keep
the
it-
interest sort of fell off, and then
Mhm.
the Martin Luther King Steering Committee came, and everybody was thinking that was the beginning of that pack. But we'll let you ladies talk about that. Helen, if you want to start and talk about, how did you first get involved with that, with the Central Civic Forum? I know you were in education, and back in the day, a lot of the educators were involved in the movements back then, and it was a lot different from what people, and some people say we're going through that again now, you know, in this present day, with them trying with voter suppression and everything. But back then it was the beginning with poll tax and all different kind of ways to keep us from voting and being educated
Yes,
on the political
everything.
scene. But it was people like yourself and the Central Civic Forum that tried to educate our communities and make sure they knew what to do, how to register to vote. And so I'm talking, so I'll let you talk a little bit about that.
Okay, well, from the beginning, it was a minister, the Reverend Dr. O.C. Jones was pastor of Mount Hermon Baptist Temple. And my father-in-law came to me and asked me if I would be secretary for the Central Civic Forum. And I said, well, let me think about it. And I thought about it. And they came back, wanted to know an answer. And I told them, yes, I would. And the strangest thing, they told me, we pay our secretaries there. I said, oh, and guess how much they paid? 25 cents.
But they paid you.
That's true. That's right. We pay our secretaries.
That was about a carton of milk then, right?
I consented. And the Central Civic Forum at that time was meeting downtown at Norcom High School, the old Norcom on Chestnut Street. I had a room, let them move there and meet for a while. And your father, Jim Overton, was president.
Mm.
And that is one gentleman that paid his dues in the city of Portsmouth and Norfolk County.
Mm.
And I really feel that some shrine should be established somewhere in the city in Jim's name, because he was he was the lawyer that's got equal pay for the teachers in Chesapeake. And
Cost him his
Chesapeake
job.
wasn't even thought about then, it was Norfolk County.
Cost him his job.
Well, getting back to Portsmouth. Portsmouth was divided into wards at that time. Douglas Park was in the county. And Portsmouth went as far as the railroad on Portsmouth Boulevard. So we went there, we would have our meetings down at Riddick Weaver. And we had some of the old pioneers, and yes, ministers were very much involved. We had 3 major organizations in the city of Portsmouth at that time. We had the Ministers Forum, the Central Civic Forum, and we also had the NAACP. Hugo Owens was president of this NAACP. But the 3 organizations always worked together. And we had numerous ministers coming to us. We used to have mass meetings. So these mass meetings hadn't just sprung up. We were having them then to get the word around. And where we would have them was the old Fourth Baptist Church was down on the corner of Chestnut Street and South Street. So a lot of people don't know that, but that's where we used to have them. And we had to be very, very careful when we planned meetings. We had certain ones we would spread the word around, because we had people like you have nowadays would go back and tell the whites. And the KKK was very active during that time, but we didn't experience too much of it. And we didn't experience any of it in Portsmouth, as far as I know, but they were in the county. And the whites would always know what we were doing. So we were bonded together, all of us that worked with them, and to get the word out. And we would have meetings after meetings. And finally, the superintendent of schools, because we were getting active and getting things done, getting vote, and we talk and have meetings, the very thing we were concerned about, getting people out to vote. Portsmouth had a little, it was just about a regular sheet of paper, a yellow book they would have with all of the registered voters in it. The whites were in the front and two or three pages in the back for colored. Well, that's what we were then, colored people. And we would get that, and they wouldn't give it to everybody, on the special ones. Jim, if you hear me say Jim, I'm talking about James' father, was very active, and he was the president. And he was down there with the lawyers, and he could get his hands on certain things, and whatever he would get, he would come back, bring it back and share it with us. And by being secretary, I had to keep up with all of this stuff. And believe me, then, there were no women. I was the only one, and Nancy T. Wheeler. Anybody remember her, Leah?
Yes, indeed.
She was an undertaker, and her business was down on Green and County Street. She was very vocal. We had people running for office then, and the ballot sheet was a long sheet of paper. They had no machines or anything, and you count by hand. You just put it in there. And every time we had a black to run, they would lose. They would lose. So when Hugo Owens decided to run, We had meetings after meetings, privacy, everything was private because we couldn't and only time that we would let the entire community know was when we would have mass meetings, and then we would present to them. Your father always emceed those programs. Let the community know that Dr. Owens was going to run and what we had to do, get out the vote. Well, we knew we had to get more people on the books. So with the Central Civic Forum, the executive committee consisted of the president from each ward. That's where your Wilson Ward, Harrison Ward, all of them came. And we would have all those, that's how we would call an executive meeting with all the presidents. And they would go back to their wards. And so we decided we knew we had to put on a voter registration. During that time, they came up with the blank sheet. I know you all don't remember that, but the registrar would come out and give you a blank sheet of paper. And you had to fill it out, just write on it. There was no filling out, just write, just the way she had it. First, your name, age, address, city, state, etc. And if you made a mistake and put your address or something down, you forgot to write your address, she would come to you and just tear the paper right up in front of you and throw it in the trash and said, you failed. And you couldn't go back that same day. You had to go back another day. What we did, down the street from me, we had a Masonic hall. And on the first floor, they allowed us to use that. And it was Saturday mornings, sometimes I'd go down and people knew that we were teaching them how to fill out a voter registration so they could vote. And not only that, after you did all of that, that was the poll tax. And Virginia Bella was our registrar then. And if she felt like she wanted to make you pay $3, it was $3. And during that time, $3 was just as hard to get as $1,000 now. Mm. And you had to pay $3. And if she felt that she wanted to charge you $3 back, if you were over the age of 21, you're about 25, 26, make you pay for the back. And they were hard times, so we had to go back down and we kept getting involved with things. Hmm. We couldn't take, like you're gonna put in your car, 5 or 6 people, take them down to the registry. She wouldn't take all of it. No, that was one at a time, and she would take her time doing it. See, these were the tough times, the segregated that we resented, but that was the way she ran things. And we would get the people registered. We met, and with Hugo, we would have meeting after meeting, had it airtight. Everything was set up just fine. We knew we had it. We had instructed our people. That's when, remember, you all don't remember, but we had a slogan. We would come out single shot. Yeah. And that meant just vote for that one person. Forget what the Whitey told you to do, or you weren't connected with this one or that one, or regardless of what, forget everything and just vote for him. And we had poll watchers. That was another thing. They wouldn't let them in the building where the voting was taking place until 7 o'clock, right on the dot. And you had to stand so many inches from the door, and you couldn't block the door. I mean, it was horrible, but we managed, we went through all of that and had people dedicated. Mm-hmm. We had everything, and they began to call in and tell us about Hugo. He had won. But down in my ward in Pennis Point, because they had Pennis Point and Mount Hermon together, they had a gentleman that worked the polls all day. And that evening, he wasn't there. And come to find out, we found out, and that's where Hugo lost his, it was either 7 or 8 votes. He lost that election, and that's why he was so disappointed and disgusted with citizens and Portsmouth. That's when he decided he was going to leave, and he did. But he was a dynamic president and a leader here in the city of Portsmouth.
You know,
And
Helen,
we asked this gentleman, said, well, what happened? You didn't stay on duty. He said, I was fatigued and I went home and took a nap.
Mm.
And they wanted to get him out of there so they could destroy. These are things that really actually happened and what we were up against. So that was a very, very, very sad night in Portsmouth with the Blacks when he lost that election. Nancy Wheeler ran for House of Delegates. Thought we had everything down for her, and she didn't win. And we had so many, we had your teapot from Harrison Ward and Truxton ran. He lost. Everybody that decided to want to run for office lost because they were in charge and we had nobody. And we realized, and we would talk, have meeting after meeting after meeting. Only way we can get our foot in the door is to get people downtown on commission. We had nobody on any of the boards or commissions. Finally, they put Reverend Harvey Johnson on the school board. That was the first Black. We were so happy about that. Come to find out, we found out in the white communities, they would take pictures of the school board and put it in their yearbook. They wouldn't invite him to take a picture. So we got word of that and got back to him. And he raised hand on the school board about that, to break that up. But these little things like that would get to you.
yeah. Well, Helen, let me let some of the other hosts get involved.
Okay,
and
sure.
I have some questions for Dianne as well. And one thing I forgot to mention, that you're a graduate of the Virginia Union University.
Yeah, I didn't graduate. I was there.
Well, you were there. You're still a Panther.
And I was there.
And Dianne, Norfolk State University, you have two cohorts up here.
Yes,
and the
Dianne.
Colonel grads of Norfolk State University. So
Tried to get her to go there, but she went. And
I went to
she didn't
Virginia
stay.
Union, but I didn't stay.
got homesick.
Got homesick. That's right.
But anyway, another host, I think, Helen just told, some stories about, and this is the kind of history that we need to pass. I can remember,
Absolutely.
and I hope that parents will do what my dad did to me.
Mhm.
During those days, he took me down there
Mhm.
and those long lines to vote. I would be standing in, didn't know why, but as time went on, I understood that. And as soon as I was old enough to vote, I did that. I'm sure
Well,
Helen did that to Dianne.
Yes, she did.
Kept us around
Mhm.
that, even though we couldn't really get involved, but as we grew into ourselves, we knew the importance of voting. Hugo losing by 8 points was, a crime. And then it went on and went on until, but we never gave up. So,
Mhm.
those things happen. And Leah, I didn't know if you had something. I think you're still
You're
muted.
muted.
I put it on mute because I'm in the coffee area, so the patients are coming in to get
Oh,
coffee.
okay.
So if I go to mute, it's because someone has come in to get a cup of coffee. But Helen Davis, my lady, boy, we go so far back and we work so well together in civic events and political events, and she has just been a stalwart. She has worked so hard and has really paid her dues in the political arena. And to hear that story, that's one of the stories. I thought I knew all the stories about what had taken place in the city of Portsmouth, but Helen, that's one story that I missed. I knew that Dr. Hugo Owens had lost, but I did not realize that it was such a small number that he had lost by. And the beauty of the Central Civic Forum was the fact that you all work to keep things in-house. You tried to keep the moles out,
The,
Well,
know,
yeah,
and you worked together. You were able to bring different organizations
Oh,
together
yes.
to work
yes.
together and not being concerned about, oh, the Central Civic Forum, we're the best organization.
Yeah, no, we
Or the
had none of
NAACP is
that.
the best, but you all just came together and worked
Mm-mm.
together. And that's a lesson that we can learn today. That's a lesson we need to learn today. And that's why this story has to be told. So I'm thankful for what you shared with us, Helen. And Diane, we go far back as well,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
right.
Norton
That's
High
right.
School and all
That's
the
right.
good things.
That's right.
And
Uh,
you paid your dues as well. You came on as president as well. Now, how did you, because, you know, the guys were really kind of running things there for a while. And then your mom paid her dues, and then you came in and you came in and took charge as well. So tell us about your journey.
Well, my journey began probably as Slim Overton, little Slim here, because at an early age, my mom would drag me to these meetings.
I remember.
Would drag me, and I sit there. I was bored. And
Yeah.
why am I doing the in here? And from that, she had me involved in this campaign. I'll never forget. I was 12 years old. And Leah, you may remember this, and Slim, you remember the Burlage girls.
Yes,
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 she
yes.
had me
Davis.
handing out ballots for Burlage all in the neighborhoods and trucks the neighborhood on hot summer days.
The hot summer days. Yeah.
And they gave me a whole bundle to hand out, and I got so did I threw them in the trash can.
Ooh.
Did.
Heaven forbid.
And
Yeah.
they found out about it, and certainly I was scolded.
Yeah.
But those experiences at 12 years old,
Mhm.
I didn't know what it all meant.
The
Yeah.
seed had
Didn't
been
connect
planted.
for me.
Uh-huh.
But looking back now, you know, I was exposed at an early age to be a change agent.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know,
Exactly.
if you see something that's not right, you say something, you
Exactly.
do something, not only say, you
Mhm.
do something.
Mhm.
And also what I learned back during that time, so they sort of groomed me for leadership
Mhm.
of the Central Civic Forum back during the Raymond Turner
Raymond
era.
Big Boy, Raymond
Big
Big Boy
Boy
Turner.
Turner.
Yes.
So they positioned me to become president, and it was under my leadership when we had a 50th anniversary, and we brought in Percy Sutton. He was renowned
Mhm.
I was there. I
broadcaster.
remember
Brought him,
Yes.
that's right. Brought him
Yes.
here. That was a big thing.
He
And
Uh-huh.
he
go
kind of
ahead.
revived the Apollo Theater.
That's right. That's
Hudson
right.
Skillen was president then.
He,
Yeah.
oh, he was president. Right. That's right. Yeah, Patricia, her memory is better than mine. But anyway, we did that. But also, it was during the time because we had started the Battle We protests long before I came president. I
Right.
mean, Jim Hollis started that,
Mhm.
but it was during my time when we sort of brought it to fruition
Mhm.
with the protests, relentless, persistent protests in the community. I mean, we
Yeah.
really, we
South
had a,
Hall,
Diane,
Littleton
I-
South Hall.
Diane,
yeah,
I can remember during that time the PIT came to town,
that's right.
and
That's right.
I was part of it then, and we went out there trying to bring attention to the Bite of We, and what better place with the PIT, all these national people. And I think our call was we weren't out there protesting the PIT, but it was against the
By the way.
Bite of We.
Right.
Segregation.
The
And,
segregation.
Because
Right.
some of the people that were involved with PIT came over there and asked us, why are y'all protesting the PIT? And we told them it wasn't them, it was, if this was a good place for us to be, to bring attention to something. And that wasn't like it was in the 50s or early 60s.
No.
No, this was in the 80s.
And it was
That's right.
it was owned by the city. Was it
The
owned? It was
city.
owned
By the city of Portsmouth was leasing
right.
the city
That's right.
property
That's right.
to
That's right.
that
Chandler
guy,
Hopper,
that Chandler Hopper wouldn't even let
Mhm.
Louise Lucas come in there.
right, $300 a month he was
Yeah.
paying for that land, and we
Yeah.
couldn't go play golf.
Uh-huh.
Couldn't go in there. And he was
No.
stand right there and say, y'all ain't getting in there.
No, he was very vocal
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
But I guess back to your question, Leah, was the fact that at an early age, even though I wasn't interested,
Mhm.
they were feeding my spirit
Right.
right
Right.
then, just having me tag along
Mhm.
to see Martin Luther King. Remember this at the peanut
Festival in
field
Suffolk.
Yeah,
in
yeah. Uh-huh.
Suffolk.
Uh-huh.
When
Uh-huh.
he came to town,
Mhm.
all of this happened at the age of 12. So there
Mhm.
was so much going on during that time that I guess it just fed my spirit and
And
motivated me.
Diane, and the good thing about it is that Mrs. Davis, Lucy Overton,
That's right.
those people mentored the young people.
That's right. That's
They
right.
took us under their wing
Wing. That's right.
and to teach us what we need to do and how we needed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the important piece.
That was very important. That absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
They did mentor us and show us, negotiating system.
Exactly.
That's the whole thing. How do you negotiate and
Mhm.
be a change agent within systems?
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's invaluable. Students today, I talk
Mhm.
about that. Many of them don't know how to access and be change agents
Mhm.
within systems. We feel
Exactly.
powerless. Oh, I
Mhm.
can't do anything. It is what it is. They're never going to change. You can do something,
You
even
can do
as one
something.
person.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
Can't go
those were
back
the
to the
lessons.
can't go back to the 70s, blame everything on the man like we used
No,
to back in the
Exactly.
70s.
Exactly.
And
But
Helen, you saying, and I tell this story all the time. When I was real small, my dad used to take me these, and all the meetings, a lot of the meetings was at churches. I remember Noble Street,
That's
and we
right.
went to a meeting in Noble Street, and it
Mhm.
was, I guess it was secret. I didn't know. I was just in a meeting, but those guys would be in there arguing and
They
fighting.
were.
yes, we
They were.
did. They
Some
did.
differences of opinions,
Mhm.
and I
That's
thought they
right.
might come to blows.
That's
But
right.
once they walked out of that building,
Absolutely.
nobody knew who was, arguing with each
That's
other,
right.
and they were
And they
they were
didn't know, and they didn't
united.
know, and they didn't know what took place in the meeting when you
That's
got
right.
out of the
Didn't
meeting.
know what
That's
took
right.
place in the meeting. I've
That's
been
right.
in meetings, in recent groups with somebody sitting in there texting
Mhm.
Or
what we were
videotaping.
saying
Or
in the meeting.
videotaping.
Right.
While we
Right.
in the meeting. So that's why, but
But
anyway,
you must understand too, James, back then, we were in Portsmouth. We worked with the people in Norfolk, Suffolk.
oh
As
yeah,
Moses Riddick was up in Suffolk. Milton Reed, that was before Joe Jordan came on the scene. Milton Reed was the big thing. And the
But-
Poor People's March came through that Milton Reed headed. And he insisted they come through Portsmouth at Grove Baptist Church.
Mhm.
That's where they spent the night.
Mm.
Those people with those overalls and all that stuff.
yeah.
Ralph
That's,
Rivas was
Ralph Rivas was the
Right.
right. And he was one of those young, energetic young men and wanted to do something fast, quick.
Recording in progress.
I remember that Sunday, they spent Saturday night here and we had to see that they were fed and everything. And Ralph gonna wear his overalls in the pulpit. And those deacons said,
I remember that.
Grove,
yeah.
oh no, you put a suit on. And we
Yeah,
said goodbye to him. And not only that, we worked around and all, there was Curtis Harris up in Hopewell. He was very active. We would all meet together. But the thing that really did it here in Portsmouth, I think brought about the real change. When we got Jim Harley, Raymond Turner, and almost got what's his name?
Solomon
Solomon
Carey.
Carey.
Yeah.
The three of them.
Mhm.
But Solomon ran for everything all the time.
Yeah.
He knew that. And the night Martin Luther King was assassinated, I was on my way. David Muckle was president at that time. And he had called the meeting down to the Y. It was very important. And that was another hush hush. You don't tell anybody, you just get up and go.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I was on my way and stopped at Effingham and hired the light. And it came on the car radio that
Mhm.
he was assassinated.
Mm.
And I was so upset and just cried and made it down. The Y was down further down Effingham Street than it is now. Went there and went up, they were upstairs in this private room and went in there. And they saw I was upset and wanted to know, and I broke the news to them. So everything just got quiet. And Dave Muckle said, well, we're here now. I tell you why I called this meeting. It's probable, but not possible, that we elect 3 people. We're going to get, one should withdraw. And they said, well, Helen, you know, Raymond, you talked to him. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. All of them want to run, let them run. It's their privilege. Who knows? And we sat around and they were so sad and we left the meeting. But that's the way they would do things. And we would just have to just embed it and just think when we first started out, women were not a part of anything. In fact, I was the only woman for so long in that place. Nancy Wheeler.
That's right.
Grace Bushell Davis, when she retired, she came in and we could depend on her. And Lucy wasn't involved in it then. She came later
Right.
during that time. But during that first time we had, and most of the elderly Blacks then were Republicans. So we had a twofold job. We had to try to encourage them to come over and be a Democrat and show them where we're in, what we were all about, and sold them and got them moving. And I mean, we really taught them how to vote and taught and educated them about voting. And I know in the school, you get I used, before an election, get all these notes coming, which way we going? And the teachers were not allowed to participate in things like that then. We had so many things going. We went up to Surrey, was a young lady up there running for Commonwealth attorney. And she was Black and won the election. And but when we got those 2 on our city council, everybody would have wanted us to come and speak in these different little counties and places. We used to get around to do that on Saturday mornings sometimes. It was hard, but it was for a cause, everybody, and we were just dedicated to it. That's all. We know no other way but just try to teach these people and get them out. So we had a threefold job on us, getting them to vote and everything.
Another
And
thing,
changing them from Republican to Democrat.
That was another hard one. Some of them were diehards.
Yeah.
You know, and when they made a commitment to the boss that they were going to support them, whatever
They made that
candidate the
commitment.
boss, they did. They stuck with it. And we had a time changing them. We had the Reuben Bowies and the Corey Bells and all those older ones. C.E. Ellis. I know everybody remember him.
and I want to say,
And what was it? Was it Kelly from Kelly's?
The Kelly.
Yes.
Yeah, the cab driver.
Was he a Republican?
No,
okay.
He was staunch. He
Okay.
came up from country somewhere.
Okay.
He fell right in. We got him easy.
And
Had a brother,
Reuben
Henry
Bowie.
Browder.
Reuben
Reuben
Bowie.
Bowie.
I said Bowie.
Reuben Bowie was a character.
He was a
character.
I was
Some
gonna,
of
Corey
them
Bell.
would play
Yes.
both sides. Yeah, I'm a Republican over here.
Yes,
You know?
yes. But,
And guess
what's
what we paid poll workers during that time?
But wasn't it amazing that they played both sides, but yet and still you all were able to keep
Come
things
together.
in
We
house?
did.
Yes, they did.
You know?
They
They
would
did.
listen to us.
Yes,
Yeah, they call them into the woodshed.
that's exactly right.
And they have the powwows and they'd come out fussing and everything, but no one would know it.
yeah.
Exactly.
You know, and they were strategic in
Mhm.
this whole process. If we're gonna run 2 in 1970, and we're gonna run 2 this year,
Mhm.
and maybe next time, big boy, that'll be your time.
We
Let's
got to get
2.
some, but we got
Yeah.
those 2 on that city council. They started putting people on the boards and commissions.
Right.
It all started with them.
Do you think, and I kind of know the answer. You think that's what we're really missing now, because we have these elections now with 10 people might run.
There you go.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and some of the people that probably would be good candidates or good legislators don't get in because the votes are so diluted.
Exactly.
And I support anybody's right to run, but you have to, be aware of who has the best chance at this moment. You can run, back then where people would step down if they were thinking about it, and step down, okay, we're going to support these two. And next time you run. But it seems like people can't wait
James,
now. They can't
after
wait.
we held those mass meetings, then we would go back and have our executive committee meeting. After we listened to all those, whoever's out there decide I'm gonna run. And then that executive committee would come up with the ones that we felt were right. And they have to be trained,
They're
and
trained.
have
That's
some.
right.
But anything here in Portsmouth now, oh, I want to run. I'm gonna run because they pay up to pay you, and I need some money.
Or the prestige of being
Yes.
a councilman, or a
Yes.
school board member.
But and then it hurts you when you see that person win. Well, one thing that gets those people in that they're really not qualified is the amount of people that's not voting.
Yes.
You can get in there with 15,000 votes, and then they get in there and you can see that they're not prepared. They don't do the homework.
They don't even know.
Absolutely.
Don't have
The
a clue.
questions they ask,
Right.
that that they're fed with that information before they get into the public.
Right. Absolutely.
That's what makes it so bad. And say, well, and with some people that were running, there probably would have been a better candidate or a better elected official. But I don't know if we'll ever get back to that where we can come together and say, well, we don't need 10 people running.
Well, I think this is a different day and age.
It's a different day and age.
There's no way you can control it other than just don't support them.
And I believe you're right. But
because you can't tell a person, you can't, that's his individual right as a citizen.
Even like the more you tell them, the more they're
harder they're going.
Exactly.
Yes.
And you made a good point about the training. That is so key.
Yeah.
They had a system, again, being strategic, where, you may be on the Citizens Advisory Committee to really learn city government before you ascend to running for council. They had books and everything. It wasn't like I'm going to run because I just want to be on council, as you said, Leah, because that serving in public office is a very heavy responsibility.
It is.
And you need to know the issues, you need to finance, the inner workings of city government. Especially when we're called as Black people to a higher order, of course, we got to know everything. They were strategic in training and making prospective candidates knowledgeable about local government and state government. We would take trips to Richmond to the House of Delegates. I can remember when Doug Wilder was elected governor. Members of the, did you go with us, Clem, to Richmond with Raymond Turner?
No, during that time, my dad was in the hospital.
Okay, we went to Richmond.
I remember that though. Yeah.
Right, part of our training to learn, state government and how it operated. And Raymond Turner, we all met with Doug Wilder. And the first question Raymond Turner asked Doug Wilder, now that you have been elected governor, what are we going to get out of this? Meaning, what are Black people going to get from you? It was an accountability process. So that experience taught me about making people accountable.
Yeah.
Because he was on them. Okay, what are you going to do for Black people? We put you in here. What are you going to do? Those kinds of things. Those little nuggets.
Little
things.
Dianne, adjust your light, baby, because we can't see you.
Sure. Okay.
And so often we forget what they ran on. Well, probably the people on this feed, we know to keep an eye on if they fulfill their promises that they made when they were running. But a lot of people, when it comes for them to run again, they listen to the last 3 months and forget about looking at how those people voted.
Mhm,
Did
mhm.
they vote your interest in your
Yeah.
community? And that's how some people get back in,
That's right.
that they have
That's
done
right.
nothing for the communities,
Absolutely.
or
And you
they
know,
have
and
done
you-
some things and they just come back and smile in your face at the end and show up in your community where they haven't been all 4 years.
Mhm.
That's
And
right.
you have to be aware of those things. And I
That's
tell
right.
you all the time, the record is there. You can check it. If you're not
Mhm.
paying attention, like some of us might be watching, the record is there. You can go back and check and see if they even did some things, even if it's something as small as were they
Right.
concerned about the potholes in
Mhm.
Right.
your community.
Right.
Those
Right.
things add up for everyday citizens.
Of course.
You know-
Well,
you
let me
know-
tell you about how that MLK group got started. It was in my living room.
Hmm.
And it was a branch from the Central Civic Forum. And I think, Dianne, you were on that committee, and your father, Raymond. And everybody had been disgruntled all along about making Martin Luther King a holiday. And our people, our representatives in Richmond just wasn't doing anything. But you know, that was unheard of. They're not a Black man being a national holiday.
Mhm.
And so we got started with that. And we named our committee Martin Luther King Steering Committee, because we were only there appointed for that one thing. And we worked and got to Cleves Manning and all of our representatives in Richmond to make that a holiday. And we pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And after they decided to have it a holiday with Lee Jackson and all that stuff.
Yes, yes. Had to be attached to Lee Jackson Day.
Right.
King and
we were even
Confederates.
pleased with that. At least
Yeah,
his name
yeah.
was out there.
Yeah.
And the committee was dissolved. After then, well, there was a young lady who was on our committee, belonged to Third Baptist Church. And after we dissolved the committee, well, next thing I knew, it was this group springing up from Third Baptist, Martin Luther King Steering. I said, that's the one they had.
But Central Civic Forum was still active at that
Yes,
time.
Yes.
absolutely.
So they could have
Yes.
supported that
That's right.
That's right.
and done the
That's
same
right.
thing.
Little known secret.
Diane, well kept
That's why
secret.
we're
Well
here.
kept
Well
secret.
kept
And,
secret.
Well
we had
kept.
been sitting here all these years doing nothing, waiting for these people to come in town and get Black people started.
Mhm.
It's sad.
And the beginning started a long time ago.
Oh, my
Yes, it
goodness.
A long
did.
Yes.
time
Oh,
ago.
way back. Yes,
Mhm.
indeed.
Well,
And then we had another, it was a group in Portsmouth that used to meet at Trinity Baptist Church. It was called the Human Relations Council.
yeah.
No, you know about that.
Mhm.
There were a few choice Black people. And this was all the races in the city of
I remember.
Portsmouth. That's a little
I-
unknown thing.
I served
Selma
on that for a
Riven,
while.
what's the little short girl?
The lady that owned
Ann
Famous,
Long.
the lady that owned
And
Ann
Famous.
the
Law,
lawyers.
yes.
Ann
Law.
Long.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
oh, so many of us.
Uh-huh.
We used to meet there once a month
Mm.
and talk about all the racial. And that's when you really find out people, but see, way back, they were afraid to speak out because
Mhm.
most of them were business people. And if the other groups knew that they were meeting and helping us along the way, they would withdraw their monies and their funds and all of that stuff. But
Stop buying them furs from
they
Famous.
started from there. Yeah. And
Well,
then when Horace Whitaker came in town, he was pastor of Zion.
Yep.
They made him president down there of this Human Relations Council, and he was the first Black president down there. But we used to have meetings to discuss situations in Portsmouth, you know.
Mhm.
Diane, I want to ask you a question. You've been
Mhm.
around college students at Norfolk State and TCC.
Mhm.
And you remember back in the day, a lot of the protests, a lot of the lot of the movement started on college campuses.
Yes,
Mhm.
Do we still have that kind of interest in with the students of today? I can see a little bit of it, but enough to be a force.
I don't know, but I remember when the kids got started at Norcom,
Mhm.
with the lunch counter.
Yes, Rodney.
And the principal told them, if any of them went out and demonstrated again, they would be expelled from school.
Mhm.
So we had a meeting, one of those closed meetings to talk about that. And it was decided that the members of the NAACP and the Central Civic Forum would go out and picket while the kids went to school.
Mhm.
And when they got out of school, they could do it, and they did.
Mhm.
And we met in Nancy Wheeler's business down on Green Street. And Charles Bowen Jr.,
Yes.
well, he taught in Norfolk County.
Mhm.
He was an art guy too. And he made those picket signs for the kids and left them around at Nancy Wheeler's. And we would go there in the morning and get those signs and picket during the day while the kids were in school. And when they get out, they would go there to Nancy's and picket. And they had nice signs then because Charles made them and he was a beautiful artist. But there was the kind of people they would do. Now there were some teachers and professionals that well, it would cost them their jobs if they got out. But we could depend on them in the background to give us that push
Mhm.
Yeah. And Dianne,
that
back to
we
you.
needed.
Dianne, back to you, because I remember in the 70s when I was in college, we protested everything. I mean, that it was just the age of the 70s. Everything was the war and Nixon and all that stuff.
Mhm.
But what I was
Mhm.
asking you, now, do you see that same kind of drive in the students on campus now? I see
Oh
it,
yeah.
some evidence.
Yeah, I think when you look at what happened at Howard University, they
Mhm.
protest about the conditions there.
Right.
Mhm.
I think at Hampton,
Mhm.
they were protesting. And I think that it depends on the issue
Mhm.
Mhm.
and many of them showing them how to peacefully protest
Mhm.
Mhm.
to bring about, desired results. That's the key. But I think the desire is definitely still there. And the George Floyd movement, a
Mhm.
lot of college students were involved in that. And we have assignments that include social justice assignments
Mhm.
on issues
Mhm.
to show the students how to peaceably bring about change through
Mhm.
protests, through writing letters, through meeting with legislators, all of the above. So yes, it's just different methods, not the way we did with the battle. We were in the street with
The
signs, picket
signs,
signs every day, down City
little
Hall,
chants,
beating the drums. We were fearless, and it
yeah.
was a different time then. But yes, in answer to your question.
Now, and I think people are realizing that type of boots on the ground protest it still works, especially when you talk about trying to get your candidates in. You got to
Of
do that
course.
door knocking, and you got to
Mhm,
put that, putting it in a lot of television ads and things like that. That
mhm.
cost a lot of money. Not everybody's watching TV now. Most
Mhm.
people are streaming, so
Right.
you got to put the boots on the ground. So that's
But
what I was talking
Absolutely.
about.
But James, it also comes to the point that when you know your history, that's why I'm so thankful for this history that
Mhm.
Helen and Dianne are giving us on today. When you know your history, you know what you need to do in order to effect change.
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
think that with the way that the legislatures are operating now, I think it's going to wake a lot of young people up, just in light of this situation that just took place in Tennessee today.
Oh yeah,
They ousted
absolutely.
those young
Absolutely.
folks for taking part in a
There's
peaceful
protest.
march with students.
Absolutely.
These things will make young people wake up and realize that, hey, we are not free.
That's right.
The day of oppression is not over.
Mhm.
And I think these things will make them realize that, yeah, you still have a job to do. You still have a fight to fight out here. You know, if you look at what's going on, and it's not just in Tennessee, it's happening here in Virginia. They need to keep their eyes open and realize what's going on here as well, you know, so that they can be the change agents that they need to be. So I'm thinking with the right situation, James, I think the young people will be out, and I think the young people will be out there to make that change.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when
let
it
me-
affects them, you know, when
Exactly.
it, when it affects.
Exactly.
Sometimes they have to learn to look at the whole picture. It goes, it's bigger than them, you know. They have to look at it. Colonel keeps going. Colonel, can you
In
hear?
and out.
Yeah, I keep getting frozen out.
Yeah, but we can hear your voice. Did you have something you wanted to ask our guests, or
Yeah.
comment you'd like to make?
I'll make a comment right quick. And the thing is that you've given a great rendition of a longitudinal line of the right, how you got the right to vote, and the efforts that you started to get us to vote. And what do you think? And personally, I think that we're losing that right to vote because people aren't coming out. And we're starting to turn the clock back to the 1950s and 60s. And you know, the old Confederacy is starting to rise again. And I'm looking at, say, in the state of Tennessee, where they just kicked out a Black representative for protesting. And I saw where on the second person, the white woman, they voted to not expel her. And so they had to not expel the other one because he shamed them during his speech.
And she called them out. She called them out.
Yes.
How can you do that? And the people put these people in.
Yes.
Yes.
The people voted them in.
Yeah. He needs to run again.
Yeah.
And he'll be right back there. But it shows you how things are going, because our democracy is at stake. And
Oh, definitely.
It is.
same feeling that our democracy is starting to turn upside down.
That's right.
And thanks to your former president that's dividing the country.
Yes.
Okay, along racial lines with the dog whistle, make America great again.
Yep.
That may spur the protests even more with the young people, James.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I really, you know, it's gonna turn. We're gonna be hitting the streets.
Yeah, I don't
to
think
protest.
that's resonating too well with the young people, you know, and they're, you know, and that's why they're trying to eliminate the word woke, because the young people are using
But
woke.
nobody can give you
as-
the definition of
as
woke.
their-
That's the sad thing about it. They
None of
can't
them
give you the definition of it.
Yeah, ask them, put them on the spot, ask them, well, what does woke mean to you? Why you want to get rid of it? Blah, 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 blah. And then they, but
Did you, excuse me, James, but did you see the lady who wrote the book on woke? And they
Yeah,
tried to get her to give the definition of woke, and she still cannot give the definition of
Yeah.
woke?
Well,
she had a whole
okay.
chapter devoted to
Okay.
woke.
But can I ask a question when we get back to the Central Civic Forum?
Mhm.
You know, back in the day, in Portsmouth, you had to run in wards.
That's right.
I know when I ran for the Democratic Committee, I had to run in the Harrison ward in order to be elected to the
Yeah.
Democratic Committee.
I
So
remember.
what are your thoughts now? Because we have times and periods in Portsmouth where we may have 3 and 4 legislators who are all from the same community. You know, and how, I mean, we don't have it right now, but it has happened where just about everybody who served on the council were from the same community.
Yeah.
How do you
Or
feel
people
that
from Churchland.
Yeah.
how do you think that impact upon those individuals who are living in these other communities around the city?
Well, you know what needs to happen with that? My famous saying, the people have to lead and the leaders will follow, and make them responsible. Even you in church, and we elected you to represent the entire
All of us.
city.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Okay, it's gonna
I
take a
agree.
while to go back to the ward system, because we got so much stuff going on in Portsmouth in the city council
Oh, yes.
to inject the ward system now
That
with
would
all
be,
that's going on.
It wouldn't happen, Diane.
Yeah.
It wouldn't happen.
Now we need a sense of balance before
Yeah,
we tackle something.
we got to
like
bring some calmness.
that. to bring something that's a common sense
Yeah, that's right.
type of
That's right.
action.
Exactly. Some It's but you're right. We got to make folk accountable.
Exactly, exactly.
You know, we over here in Mount Hermon, we
Mhm.
need our streets paved.
Exactly.
Okay, we need recreation, just
Mhm,
like
mhm,
church.
mhm,
And
mhm.
also, you look at the recreational facilities. We don't have a decent recreational
No.
facility
mm-mm.
in the inner city.
No, you don't. We don't. We don't. They say they use the sportsplex as the place that they say, well, we have the sportsplex, but
And they
It's
don't
it's
go over there.
subpar. It's not to the standard that.
it is not. It is
Let's
not.
be honest.
Exactly. It is not.
We tried real hard when they tore down Truxton Elementary. We thought that was
Yeah, that was
a
terrible.
great spot, and one of our city councilmen fought that
Yeah,
because he said that we shouldn't be catering to Truxton, but
Mhm.
that was just
it's-
a location that
spot.
would have served
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
underserved in Southside.
Mhm.
But
And
you
they
have
end
to
up doing
be
the sportsplex and
right, right.
didn't turn out like they said.
But you have to be persistent.
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
you learned tonight from the predecessors, they were persistent
Yes,
and
yes.
they didn't give up. You tell me
Yeah,
no, I'm
after
gonna be back.
after
Keep
several
on. You
losses,
gotta
they
keep
kept
on.
on.
You gotta keep on till you
Well,
get what you
yeah.
want.
Well,
And
we
they were-
worked
they
with
were- they
those
were persistent,
representatives in
and they
Richmond.
work together.
And they work
Yes.
together.
And they work together.
And
They
they work together.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But
Yes.
did you all know that Jim's Jim James' father was the first judge.
Yes.
He was a substitute judge.
Substitute.
They
I
wouldn't
remember.
make him. He was, he had a big ego, and he didn't want his name in Richmond, and he wasn't going to make it. So we couldn't get him to go along with that.
Hmm.
But Archie Elliott was our first
First
black judge.
full time, yeah.
And I can remember how he came to being one Christmas Day after we finished our dinner. We had a meeting down to Jim Overton's office, and we had Cleves Manning there.
Mhm.
And he didn't bring anybody with him because this was one of those hush hush things. And we had to sneak down there and put all this pressure on him. And we had made him to understand that we would not vote for him anymore unless we had a black judge.
Mhm.
And that was some of the results, Archie being the first black judge we had.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm.
And of course, Johnny came to us as a little young fella, and he stuck with us, Johnny Morrison. And he was about he really paid his dues. He took everything by step by step by step,
Mhm.
and made it. And we were
Mhm.
so proud of him. And
Mhm.
the day that James' father had to preside as substitute judge, we went down to the courtroom, and we were all sitting around there just to watch him. Oh, that was the greatest thing. We had never seen a black judge in the city,
Mhm.
And
but
the
he
most
was, and we were so proud of him.
the most disappointing thing I had when I was in at Norcom, we had a business law class, so we went down to see him. He was sitting on one of those days, and the class went down there. I was so proud. We going to see my dad, and he had been to the class maybe a week before that, and spoke to the class. And we sat in they put us in the wrong courtroom.
Oh, wow.
We sitting in there, and
They
we
would
said,
do
well,
things.
and this white judge came in and said, well, maybe they tag teaming or something. I don't know. But they knew why we were there.
Right,
And whoever
right.
was in charge of
They would
directing
do
us,
things like that. Yeah.
and I remember coming home, my dad was so disappointed because he really, looked forward to, that
Right.
class out of Norcom. He was a grad of Norcom,
Mhm.
coming down there and seeing him sitting up there, with the black robe on. And we were at the wrong courtroom.
courthouse.
It's kind of funny now, but I was, it was kind of devastating.
Devastating. It was
Yeah,
devastating.
embarrassed.
It was. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
I was
absolutely.
talking trash on the way down there.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it's so important, this history that we're getting, and I'm glad this is going to be uploaded to our YouTube channel and be out there for anybody to see, especially our young folks, and we'll share it to anybody. And I ask people to share it with your younger generation and let them
Mhm.
see that things just didn't start yesterday or when Trump got into office. Things didn't start
Absolutely.
going awry when Trump came. It's
Absolutely.
been
And we
like
were
that.
organized in Portsmouth,
Right.
a little
And-
place called Portsmouth.
People know a lot about the national history, but each city had to do their own thing. They got sort of a directive from the national NAACP or whatever groups, but then each city had to cater their fight towards the way the city was. Like Helen said, we had KKK here, but they weren't as prevalent in the city as they were in
And
out
others.
there in the
County.
counties. They were burning crosses out there and
Mhm.
Oh,
blowing
but
up houses.
we knew who they were, but they
We
didn't
knew
wear
who-
the robes, but we
Right.
knew them.
Yeah. Yeah, I really want to thank you all for giving, especially my mom,
Mm.
this forum and allowing her to tell her story. Because there is such richness and a lot to be learned from what took place back during the early 50s, 60s,
Mhm.
70s. A lot that people can learn about. And I really appreciate you allowing this to happen this evening.
Yeah, well, it's a long time coming, and we're glad we had the opportunity to do it. And it's just so important because everything that happens now
Mhm.
was started back there with
Mhm.
people like your mom and all the people we mentioned here tonight. It just didn't happen. Like I said a little while ago, it just didn't happen. Things were started, and it was rough times for those people. Sometimes they were doing things, that could cost them their lives.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
They were stringing up people and
They
doing
were
things to
gutsy.
people with no consequences.
Right.
So, and we see a little bit of that now, but at least you see some justice in some areas.
And think about this. What
Mhm.
they fought for was trying to get a Black majority.
Mhm.
And we got a Black majority today.
Mhm.
But
What has
but-
happened?
What
You
happened?
had one, you had a black,
Had
Well,
one.
Well,
Right. We had
and
one.
you
And
had
what
it
has
too,
happened?
though.
that
Yeah.
goes back to what we were talking about when we were talking about having people prepared. Now, if we had people prepared up there and had a Black majority, I think it
Oh,
would have been a
goodness.
much
Oh,
different
yes.
outcome.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
and
Because
harmony,
it-
yes.
It was a
yes.
great opportunity for us to show that we could govern, beyond
Right.
whatever anybody thought. You put a bunch of them up there, all they're gonna do is, and we just did exactly what they said.
And another thing
Mhm.
was respect.
Exactly.
Respect. Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't care what, we respected, and they
Mhm.
respected us.
Mhm.
And when we would go out and even, and say we had voter registration in each, by block in each community. And they would just kick it off and everybody's out working.
Mhm.
Little, tag, little pot thing we put in the window. If
Mhm.
everybody over age would register to vote in your home. And all that encouraged people. And it took a lot of talking and working with them too, to change some of them's mind. And then they had the attitude, oh, my vote doesn't count.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna vote.
They
So that
still
comes
do.
in with voter
Yeah, so
education,
prevalent today.
Mhm.
get them out. What good is it? They're gonna do what they want to do anyway. No, but we can bring about this. You can help us.
Yes. Yes.
And the last thing I'll mention before all the hosts give their last comments and the guests give their last comments is that back then and now too, they were hardworking, everyday people that were out there dedicating
Yes.
themselves to
Right.
change.
Right.
They would work all day and come home and
That's right.
change and go to a meeting at night. When they could have been out somewhere with their friends having a beer. And relaxing after a hard day's work. They dedicated themselves. They might have had a house full of children, but they were doing that for the future of their children
That's right.
and the neighborhood.
Mhm.
So, think about that when you sit down and pretty much self-serving with your own agenda. Think about the
And-
people that came before you and sacrificed so much
Mhm.
for you to have what you have now.
That's
Might not be
right.
perfect, but it's sure better than what it was back then in
That's-
1950.
That's right.
And James, and the
It is.
caveat to it all is that, and they weren't looking to be paid.
That's
They were
right.
not
No.
seeking to be paid. They were doing it because they were doing it for the betterment
What
of the
am I gonna
community.
get out of it,
They
right?
were
Yeah.
not looking for what they could get out of it. They were not looking
No,
shine. You know, I'm going to be the one who's going to shine. They
Shine.
weren't looking for that. It was about camaraderie,
Right,
working together.
right,
You know,
absolutely.
no
Yeah.
one being paid.
They got
right.
paid
Like the
through-
pavement in front of your door.
Yeah.
They had certain sections had pavement and the blocks that had nothing, ditches you had to jump over to get in your
That's
house.
right. That's right.
All that stuff, you know.
Yeah. Chuckson had a 40-year fight. to fix
Urban,
the
we
gutters.
fought for that. Oh, goodness. Housing, everything.
Mhm.
But anyway, last comments, Colonel, I'm gonna start with you since you've been going in and out. I know, I'm sorry that you had that technical difficulties, but go ahead and give your last comments before we close.
It's
this
all
up.
good. I thank the both of y'all for coming on, and I'm reminded of a statement. We talk about the past, present, and future, and I will sum that up and say that the struggles of yesterday or the past, you have paved that way. You and others have paved that ways, but is come on, and it's also spilled over to the present day struggles, because those struggles of the past are here today, and we're living our past because we haven't learned.
Mhm.
And if you haven't learned, then your future is really at stake. So past, present, and future, because what you do today is reflects on what kind of rights you have tomorrow, what kind of world your kids and grandkids and great grandkids live in. So if you do not participate in the present, then you allow the others, the Confederates, to turn back this clock down to the 50s, and they want to go and they want to live with the Make America Great, and that is the same. It's not even a dog whistle
Mhm.
anymore. You know what he wants. It's the Klan
It's
Mhm.
in your face.
in your face.
Mhm.
That's all I got to say.
Colonel, that was a Sankofa statement that you
Yes,
just made.
yes, you did.
That
It
was
was
a
truly a Sankofa statement.
that was a HBCU education.
There you go. There you
Right.
go. There you go. But Helen Davis, I want to thank you because I feel as though I am a better person having spent time beside you, having you in my life, having you to mentor me in my life, and just to watch you and watch the things that you were doing. And it let me know those things that I needed to do in order to be a change agent. So I want to thank you so very much. And I just appreciate you so very much. And Dianne,
Yes,
you know,
ma'am.
you're my girl. You got my granddaughter. You say she's yours, but she's my granddaughter. I love that
Okay.
young lady to life. And I just want to thank you so very much
Okay,
for all
you're
that you have done,
welcome.
because you've made your mark as well. You have come out and your mother started, but you came out and you completed the work that she started. And I want to thank you so very much for that. And as you said, we still have a lot of work to go. And I know, Dianne, I know you're still in the field. You're working with these college students, trying to get them to where they need to be so that they
Absolutely.
can become the change agents. But I want
Mhm.
to thank you for all that. I
Thank
want to
you.
thank both of you for all that
You're
you've done and all that you continue to do. And just look forward to greater things from you, especially Helen Davis. Okay.
And one other thing,
Dan.
Leah, she didn't mention your husband was also a part of the Central Civic
Oh, that's
Forum.
right.
Yes,
He was
yes,
on the
he was.
battlefield.
Yeah, he
A
was.
little
And
young
in the-
Oh, yeah,
lawyer coming
DeLacy
out.
was very.
Yeah,
he
And
was with
very
that-
president of the NAACP. So
That's
That's
right.
right.
yeah,
He was
so
with that
He-
young
he was
bunch of
part of the
lawyers
fight.
that decided
He
to
right.
come
did. He
down and
made his
join us.
mark.
and I just thank you both so very much.
Well, thank
And,
And
you.
I'll tell you, somebody else started, Bobby Scott.
Yeah.
Bobby Scott, that's
Yeah.
He
right.
got him. He was running, I think, for the House of Delegates.
House of
in
Delegates,
Newport News, and he
uh-huh.
came over to be our speaker for one of our banquets. That's the only
Uh-huh.
way we had of making money. We had a banquet every
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
That's
That was
right.
Money maker back then.
One of it, right.
year.
Yeah, good.
Okay, well, Helen, much love to you. You know, your name
Thank
has
you.
always
Thank
been
you. It was a pleasure
written
being here.
in this household.
And she'll be 96 on April
96.
20th.
Helen, you can't be.
Yes.
Helen,
That's why I
Think-
was. That's why
hold
I
your
was.
head up, Helen, so I can see your beautiful face.
Are you kidding?
That's why we were so,
96. What day, Diane?
April 20th.
April. Oh, okay. Well,
Wow.
Helen, I'm gonna have to definitely call you and wish you a happy birthday.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes. God is
indeed.
good.
That's
God
why
is
Yes,
good.
all the time.
that's why I always encourage people to sit down with someone that's one of our seasoned seniors and just talk to them.
And that's right.
The wealth of knowledge that will come from those people, or the experience that they've had, will be something that you'll never be able to get elsewhere. So that's why we're so glad to have Emory Fields. We had who
That
else?
Horace Savage.
Savage,
Mhm.
and we had
Vernon Crump.
Vernon Crump.
Vernon
Okay,
Crump.
I'm sorry.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, on
Yeah,
here.
he
you know,
was
and
he was one of the former
he was
presidents.
part of
Uh-huh.
the Central Civic Forum too.
Yeah.
And that's on our YouTube channel forever. You know, it's important for us.
We
to have-
had good people. I think we had James Overton, Dave Muckles, Raymond Turner, James Hawley, Leslie Cox, Harvey Johnson Jr., Vernon Crump, Paul Wilson,
Paul Wilson, yeah.
Paul Wilson, yeah.
Johnny Morrison.
Yes.
Yes, Johnny was one of our later ones. He grew up with us. We taught him.
Uh-huh.
He turned out to be so proud, so very proud of Johnny
Yes,
and
yes.
Cynthia.
Uh-huh.
We were talking about as far as the
And Louise
proud.
came through us when she decided she wanted to run, when she retired from the shipyard or left the shipyard. She came to the Central Civic Forum.
not being the first Black
That's
woman.
right. She was the first Black woman on the city council. And
And-
we've been
And-
supporting her through the years. Yeah, Louise is a
Exactly.
fighter. And people
Uh-huh.
don't forget to get out and vote for her because we need to keep her.
Yeah.
Especially with her taking over the chairmanship.
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
crucial.
yes.
It is
yes,
crucial.
Yes,
The finance committee, yeah. I mean,
Finance,
that's
yes.
Finance.
yes,
Yes.
that's
Budget
fantastic.
and Finance, which
And
is a
like-
big committee.
like she said at our Civic League last night or the night before. You know, you remember you got to vote twice. You know, you got to vote in this primary, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
on the
Vote June
20th,
20th.
June
yes.
20th, and then you have to come right back. Don't think
In
if she wins
November.
the primary, some people think, okay, well, she's in. You
I
know,
voted once, yeah,
Uh-huh.
but she's up again. Oh, yeah.
yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Voter
that's just the
education.
primary in June.
Uh-huh.
And Dianne is so good to know, and I always knew this, that we had some of the similar experiences coming up as as young kids. Like you said, them dragging us to meetings,
Dragging us to those
dragging us to meetings. But you know, they planted a seed,
Yeah,
and,
they
and
did.
they planted a seed, and it helped me later on. You know, I
It
served
sure
on all
did.
these boards and commissions, planning commission, all that stuff, and it really helped me stay involved. But at the time, I would rather be doing something else.
Something else.
But you know, thank God for that, for them doing that. And I hope
Yeah,
more
but it's
parents.
rewarding when you look back and
Oh
see.
yeah, when you
that-
look back, very rewarding. I hope more parents do that. You know, take the power. They're your kids. You
Mhm.
don't. My dad. Last thing I promised. My dad used to ask me, "Did I want to go?" And if I said no, he said, "Well, you're going anyway."
Right, right.
You know,
You
so-
have no decision. You make
he have no
decision.
decision. He was just being nice, asking me. You know. But anyway, Portsmouth Coffee Talk is here for our voice. Oh, you don't have to come. Okay. And our future.
And our future.
And Portsmouth Coffee Talk salutes you two ladies. Thank you. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
coming on.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.
And hopefully we'll
Night.
do this again.
Okay.
I hope so.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, I'm Okay, Lee, I think you
Still recording.
should be off now, right?
Nope.